I never thought I'd be at odds with my own daughter over something as significant as my car. At 58, I've worked hard all my life, saved carefully and tried to be generous with my children. My Lexus wasn't just transportation. It was the reward I gave myself after 35 years of working at the same company, a symbol of everything I'd accomplished. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Robert, and I've been a widower for the past 8 years. My wife, Catherine, passed away after a battle with cancer, leaving me to finish raising our daughter, Melissa, who was 19 at the time. Melissa is now 27 and has been living with me while finding herself after dropping out of college 5 years ago. I never pushed her too hard about moving out or getting a stable job. Maybe that was my first mistake. After Catherine died, I was terrified of losing anyone else, so I became more lenient, more accommodating. I wanted to be the safety net my daughter could always count on, so when she suggested we open a joint bank account for emergencies, it made sense to me. What harm could come from making sure she had access to funds if she needed them? The day I bought my Lexus was one of the happiest days of my recent life. It was a 2021 ES350, pearl white with tan leather interior. Not flashy but elegant, comfortable, something I'd earned. I remember the day I drove it home, how Melissa rolled her eyes when I invited her to come for a drive. "Dad, it's just a car," she said, barely looking up from her phone. But it wasn't just a car to me. It was the first major purchase I'd made that was entirely for myself since Catherine died. Before that, everything had been for the family, for the house, for Melissa's education, before she dropped out, for medical bills, for the future. This one thing was for me. I should have seen the warning signs with Melissa. The boyfriend, Tyler, who moved in 6 months ago without so much as asking if it was okay. The increasing number of shopping bags that appeared in her room. The way she'd become defensive whenever I mentioned anything about her future plans or job prospects. "You don't understand how hard it is for my generation," she'd say. "The job market is impossible, and I'm not settling for some corporate job that makes me miserable." I tried to be understanding, but at 27, I was already married with a mortgage and a child on the way. Still, times were different, I told myself. I needed to be patient. Tyler was 29, worked sporadically as a freelance photographer, and had an attitude that always rubbed me the wrong way. He had this habit of looking at everything in my home with an appraising eye, as if mentally calculating its value. He drove a beat-up Honda that constantly needed repairs, and more often than not, he'd use Melissa's car, which, I might add, I had purchased for her 3 years ago. Last month, I went on a fishing trip with some old friends from work. We headed up to a cabin in northern Michigan, a place with spotty cell reception and no Wi-Fi. It was exactly what I needed. 3 days away from everything, just me and the guys, talking about old times, catching fish, and drinking beer by the fire. When I returned home, the house seemed quieter than usual. Melissa's car was in the driveway, but there was no sign of my Lexus. "Melissa," I called out as I dragged my luggage inside. "I'm home." She emerged from her room, looking slightly nervous, but covering it with a bright smile. "Hey, Dad, how was the trip?" "Good," I said, glancing around. "Where's my car?" "Oh," she waved her hand dismissively. "I let Tyler borrow it. His car broke down again, and he had a big photography gig out of town. Hope that's okay." It wasn't okay, but I swallowed my irritation. "When will he be back?" "Tomorrow, I think. Maybe the day after. It's a pretty big job." I nodded, too tired to argue. "Next time, ask first. That car means a lot to me." "Dad, it's just sitting in the driveway most of the time anyway. What's the big deal?" I let it go. Maybe I was being too possessive, too materialistic. It was just a car, right? I could be without it for a couple of days. 2 days passed, then 3. Tyler didn't return with my car, and Melissa's explanations became increasingly vague. The job got extended, she said on day 3. There was a problem with the client on day 4. He's on his way back now on day 5. By day 6, my patience had evaporated. Melissa, I need my car back today. Where exactly is Tyler? Her face flushed. Why are you being so difficult about this? It's not like you're using it right now. That's not the point, and you know it. It's my car, and I didn't give permission for Tyler to take it on an extended trip. Call him now and tell him to bring it back. She stormed off to her room, and I heard her arguing with someone on the phone. 20 minutes later, she emerged, looking defiant. He'll be back tomorrow, for sure this time. I didn't believe her, but what choice did I have? I couldn't exactly go looking for my own car when I had no idea where it was. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something felt wrong about the whole situation. On a hunch, I picked up my phone and opened Instagram. I rarely used social media, but I had an account to keep up with distant relatives and old friends. I searched for Tyler's profile, which was public. What I saw made my blood run cold. There, posted just 3 hours ago, was a story of Tyler behind the wheel of my Lexus. He was laughing, music blasting, driving down what looked like a highway at sunset. The caption read, "Living the good life. Upgraded ride, dear blessed." I kept scrolling through his profile. 4 days ago, he had posted a photo of my car parked in front of an upscale apartment building with the caption, "New beginnings, thanks to the best girlfriend ever. Moving up." My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I clicked on the location tag. The apartment building was in Chicago, over 300 miles away. The betrayal cut deep. It wasn't just about the car anymore. The pieces started falling into place. Tyler's appraising looks around my house, Melissa's sudden secretiveness, the vague explanations. They hadn't borrowed my car. They had taken it, possibly sold it. I sat in the dark of my living room for hours, trying to process what I was seeing. How could my own daughter do this to me? The very car I'd worked decades to afford, that I'd saved for while putting her through college, a college education she hadn't even completed, was now apparently being used as currency by her boyfriend. Morning came, and I hadn't slept a wink. I heard Melissa moving around in the kitchen, the familiar sounds of her making coffee. With heavy steps, I walked into the kitchen and placed my phone on the counter, Tyler's Instagram story still visible on the screen. Want to explain this? My voice was steady, but inside, I was a storm of emotions. Melissa glanced at the phone, and her face went pale. She quickly recovered, though, her expression hardening into defiance. "It's not what it looks like," she started. "Really? Because it looks like Tyler is driving my car in Chicago, claiming it's his new ride, thanks to you." She looked away, unable to meet my eyes. "We needed the money, Dad." The words hit me like a physical blow. "You sold my car?" Tyler got an opportunity to lease a great apartment in Chicago. It's perfect for his photography career, but we needed the security deposit and first month's rent. It was just sitting there, and you have 2 cars. That's not the point. I rarely raised my voice, but I couldn't help it now. You stole from me, Melissa. You took something that was mine, that I worked for, that meant something to me, and you sold it without even asking. "I was going to tell you," she shouted back. "I was going to pay you back once Tyler starts making real money with his Chicago clients. It's an investment in our future." "An investment?" I laughed bitterly. "With my car? Without my permission? That's not an investment, that's theft." "You've always been so selfish," she spat, tears forming in her eyes. "All you care about is your stuff, your routine, your life. What about supporting my dreams? What about helping me have a future with the man I love?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything I'd sacrificed for her, after supporting her for years into adulthood, after never pushing her to move out or get a real job, she had the audacity to call me selfish. "I've given you everything," I said quietly. "I've supported you, housed you, paid for your education, bought you a car, covered your expenses. I've never asked for anything in return except respect, and this is how you repay me?" "It's just a car, Dad." "God, it's not just a car. It's my property that you took without permission and sold. That's a crime, Melissa." Her eyes widened. "Are you threatening to call the police on me? Your own daughter?" The thought hadn't even crossed my mind until she mentioned it, but now I wondered if I should. What she'd done was illegal, after all. But the idea of my daughter in handcuffs, facing charges, I couldn't do it. "No," I said finally. "I'm not calling the police, but things are going to change around here. Immediately." "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked, suddenly looking worried. "It means you've broken my trust in the most fundamental way possible. It means I can't continue supporting someone who would steal from me. It means you're 27 years old, and it's time you learned that actions have consequences." "So what? You're kicking me out?" Her voice cracked. "I'm giving you a choice. Either you get that car back here, today, or you find somewhere else to live. And regardless of what you choose, you're going to pay me back every penny of what that car was worth." "How am I supposed to do that? You know I don't have that kind of money." "That's something you should have considered before selling what wasn't yours to sell." She stared at me, tears streaming down her face now. "You don't understand. Tyler and I need this chance. Chicago is perfect for his career, and I can find work there too. We're finally starting our lives together." "Then start your lives together without stealing from me," I replied firmly. Melissa stormed out of the kitchen, slamming her bedroom door. I heard her on the phone again, her voice rising and falling in an intense conversation. I sat down heavily at the kitchen table, feeling suddenly old and tired. Where had I gone wrong? Had I been too lenient, too accommodating? Had my grief over losing Catherine made me a pushover of a father? But even as these questions swirled in my mind, one thing became crystal clear. I needed to take action to protect myself. If Melissa was capable of selling my car without permission, what else might she do? Our joint account had nearly $45,000 in it, money I'd been saving for retirement, for emergencies, for the future. Without another moment's hesitation, I picked up my phone and logged into my banking app. With a few taps, I froze our joint account. No withdrawals would be possible without my direct authorization at the bank. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it would buy me time to figure out my next steps. What I didn't realize was how quickly that decision would escalate the situation, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you what happened next. After freezing the account, I decided to drive to work in Melissa's car, the one I had purchased for her 3 years ago. It seemed only fair, considering my own vehicle was apparently now in Chicago with Tyler. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had bought her that car as a gift when she turned 24, hoping it would motivate her to become more independent. Instead, it had become just another thing she took for granted. At work, I couldn't concentrate. Images of Tyler driving my Lexus, laughing in the video, kept flashing in my mind. My co-workers noticed something was wrong, but I brushed off their concerns. How could I explain that my adult daughter had essentially stolen my car and sold it without my permission? It was too humiliating. During my lunch break, I received a flurry of text messages from Melissa. "Dad, what the hell? Why can't I access our account? I need that money for rent deposit today. Answer me! This is an emergency! Tyler's landlord is waiting for the deposit. We'll lose the apartment if we don't pay today." I turned off my phone. For the first time in years, I decided that Melissa's emergencies were not my emergencies. She had created this situation herself by stealing from me. The consequences were hers to bear. When I returned home that evening, the house was eerily quiet. Melissa's door was closed, but I could hear her talking in hushed, urgent tones. I made myself a simple dinner and ate alone at the kitchen table, just as I had done countless nights since Catherine passed away. Around 8 p.m., Melissa finally emerged from her room, eyes red and swollen from crying. "Dad," she said quietly, her voice hoarse, "we need to talk." I nodded, gesturing to the chair across from me. She sat down, hands fidgeting nervously. "I spoke with Tyler. He admitted that he sold your car." "I know," I replied calmly. "He got $32,000 for it. He says it was a really good deal." I laughed bitterly. The car was worth at least $45,000. He got ripped off, and so did I. He's going to transfer the money to my account, well, our joint account, but I can't access it because you froze it. "And why should I unfreeze it?" I asked, meeting her gaze directly. "So you can take that money too? Use it for the apartment in Chicago with Tyler?" Her face flushed. "It's not like that. We're going to pay you back, every penny." "With what money, Melissa? You don't have a job. Tyler works sporadically at best. How exactly do you plan to pay me back?" "Tyler has big clients lined up in Chicago. He's been networking for months. This apartment is in the perfect location, close to all the major studios. He could triple his income within a year." It was the same story I'd heard for years. Tyler was always on the verge of some big break, some major opportunity. Yet somehow that break never materialized, and he continued living off Melissa, who continued living off me. "I've heard that before," I said wearily. "I don't believe it anymore." Melissa's expression hardened. "You've never believed in us. You've never supported my relationship with Tyler. You've always looked down on him because he's not some corporate drone like you." The words stung, but I kept my composure. "I've housed both of you rent-free for 6 months. I've paid for groceries, utilities, everything. If that's not support, I don't know what is. That's different. That's just stuff. You've never emotionally supported us. You've never believed in our dreams. Dreams don't pay bills, Melissa, and they certainly don't justify stealing." She slammed her hand on the table. "We didn't steal it. We were going to tell you. After the fact, after selling my property without permission, that's the definition of stealing." "Fine," she shouted, standing up. "Keep the stupid account frozen. We'll figure it out ourselves. We don't need your help." As she turned to storm back to her room, I called after her. "Where's the money Tyler got for the car?" She paused, her back still to me. He already used it." "For what?" "The security deposit. First and last month's rent. Some equipment he needed for his studio setup." I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath to steady myself. Not only had they sold my car without permission, but they'd already spent the money too. Money that wasn't even close to the car's actual value. "Melissa," I said calmly, "I want you both out of this house by the end of the week." She whirled around, shock written across her face. "What?" "You heard me. I want you and Tyler out by Friday. That gives you 3 days." "But where will we go? We can't afford 2 places." "That's not my problem anymore. You've made your choice. You chose Tyler and his opportunity over honesty and respect for me. Now you get to live with that choice." "Dad, please." Her voice cracked, tears forming again. "We made a mistake. I know that now, but don't throw us out." "Actions have consequences, Melissa. It's time you learned that. We'll pay you back, I promise. Just give us a chance." "You'll pay me back whether you live here or not," I replied firmly. "And maybe, once you've repaid every penny, we can talk about rebuilding our relationship. But right now, I need you out of my house." She stared at me, a mix of anger and desperation in her eyes, before turning and running back to her room. I heard the door slam, followed by muffled sobbing. Part of me wanted to go to her, to comfort her as I had done since she was a little girl. But another part, the part that had been betrayed and taken advantage of, held firm. This was a lesson she needed to learn. painful as it might be. The next morning, I woke to find Tyler in my kitchen, helping himself to coffee. It was the first time I'd seen him since discovering what they'd done. "Mr. Wilson," he said, nodding in my direction. There was a wariness in his eyes, but also a strange confidence that I found infuriating. "Tyler," I replied coldly, "I understand you sold my car." He had the decency to look somewhat ashamed, but recovered quickly. "Look, I know how it seems, but it was a really good opportunity. The timing was tight, and we knew you'd be hesitant. So you took it without asking," I finished for him. "Do you realize that's grand theft auto? I could press charges." His confident facade faltered. "Melissa had the spare key. She said it would be okay, that you guys could work it out." "And the $32,000, where is that now?" "I had expenses," he said defensively. "Setting up in Chicago isn't cheap. Studio equipment, deposit, rent. So not only did you steal my car, you've spent the money from selling it. Money that wasn't yours to spend." He shifted uncomfortably. "I can pay you back. Once I get established in Chicago, I'll—" "Save it," I interrupted. "I've heard enough empty promises. You and Melissa have until Friday to get out of my house. And you'll both pay back every penny of what that car was worth. Not the $32,000 you got for it, but the $45,000 it was actually worth." Tyler's expression darkened. "You can't be serious. Where are we supposed to go?" "Chicago, apparently. Isn't that where this amazing opportunity is, the one worth stealing for? We can't afford two places right now. The Chicago apartment doesn't even have furniture yet. Again, not my problem. You made this choice when you took my car." Tyler set down his coffee mug with a bang. "This is ridiculous. You're punishing Melissa because you're jealous." That caught me off guard. Jealous? Of what? That she's starting a life with me. That she's moving on. That she doesn't need you anymore. I laughed, genuinely amused by his delusion. "Tyler, if Melissa didn't need me, you wouldn't be living in my house rent-free. You wouldn't have been driving the car I bought her, and you certainly wouldn't have needed to steal my car to fund your move." His face flushed with anger. "We don't need your charity. We're going to make it on our own." "Good. Then you won't mind moving out by Friday." He stormed out of the kitchen, nearly colliding with Melissa, who had been hovering in the hallway listening. "Dad, please," she begged, coming into the kitchen. "Don't do this." "It's already done," I replied, pouring myself a cup of coffee. "I suggest you start packing." The next 2 days were tense. Melissa and Tyler alternated between avoiding me completely and making desperate pleas for reconsideration. I remained firm. By Thursday evening, they had packed most of their belongings into Melissa's car. Friday morning, I woke to find a note on the kitchen counter. "Dad, we're leaving for Chicago. I'm sorry about the car. I know you won't believe this, but we really are going to pay you back. Tyler has connections there, real ones. This is going to work out. I wish you could be happy for me, for us. Maybe someday you will be. Love, Melissa." Beside the note was a set of house keys. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, staring at the note, feeling a complex mix of emotions, sadness that it had come to this, anger at their betrayal, relief that they were finally taking responsibility for themselves, and worry because despite everything, she was still my daughter. Later that day, I went to the bank to sort out the joint account. I officially removed Melissa's name from it, transferring her half, about $22,000, to a new account in her name. It was money she had technically inherited when her mother died, and despite everything, I couldn't bring myself to keep it from her. The remaining funds I moved to my personal account. As I drove home in Melissa's car, now my only vehicle, I called my lawyer to discuss the next steps. We would draft a formal repayment agreement for Melissa and Tyler to sign, with monthly payments over the next 5 years until the full $45,000 was repaid. 3 weeks passed without any word from Melissa. I tried calling a few times, but it went straight to voicemail. I assumed they were settling into their new life in Chicago, perhaps avoiding me out of embarrassment or lingering anger. Then on a Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang with an unfamiliar Chicago area code. "Hello," I answered cautiously. "Dad?" Melissa's voice sounded small, defeated. I need your help." "What's wrong?" Despite everything, concern immediately washed over me. "It's Tyler. Her voice broke. "He left. He took everything. The equipment, the rent money for next month, even my laptop. I'm stuck here with no way to pay rent, no job, nothing." I closed my eyes, a deep weariness settling over me. Part of me had expected something like this, but I took no pleasure in being right. "Where are you now?" I asked. "At the apartment, but I have to be out by the end of the month, and that's only 10 days away. I don't know what to do." I thought about it for a long moment. "Do you have enough money for a bus ticket home?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. "You'd let me come back? After everything?" "You're my daughter, Melissa." "That hasn't changed." She started crying then, soft, hiccuping sobs. "I'm so sorry, Dad. You were right about everything. About Tyler, about me not taking responsibility. I've been so stupid." "We all make mistakes," I said gently. "The important thing is learning from them." "I will. I promise. Things will be different this time." I wasn't naive enough to believe that everything would change overnight, but it was a start. "Get a bus ticket. Let me know when you'll arrive and I'll pick you up." "Thank you, Dad. I love you." "I love you too, Melissa." After we hung up, I sat in my living room for a long time, thinking about second chances and hard lessons. I thought about Catherine, wondering what she would have done in my place. I like to think she would have made the same choices, firm but forgiving, teaching responsibility while leaving the door open for reconciliation. The day Melissa was due to return, I cleaned the house, prepared her old room, and made her favorite meal, Catherine's lasagna recipe. As I drove to the bus station in what had once been Melissa's car, I reflected on how much had changed in just a few short weeks. My daughter had made a serious mistake, one that had hurt me deeply and broken my trust. But she was coming home humbled, hopefully having learned a valuable lesson about honesty, respect, and the true cost of chasing empty promises. When I saw her step off the bus, looking tired and small with just one suitcase in hand, my heart softened completely. She spotted me and hesitated for just a moment before running into my arms, sobbing against my shoulder like she used to do as a child. "I'm so sorry, Dad," she whispered. "So sorry for everything." "I know," I said, holding her tight. "I know. We had a long road ahead of us, rebuilding trust, establishing new boundaries, figuring out Melissa's future without Tyler in the picture. There would be a repayment plan for the car, and this time I would hold her to it. But in that moment, as I held my daughter in my arms, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel so soon: hope. The drive home was quiet, Melissa staring out the window, lost in thought. When we pulled into the driveway, she finally broke the silence. "I know things can't go back to the way they were before," she said softly. "I don't expect them to, but I want you to know that I'm going to make this right. I'm going to pay you back for the car, get a real job, stand on my own 2 feet." I reached over and squeezed her hand. "One day at a time, Melissa. We'll figure it out together." As we walked into the house, I realized that sometimes the hardest lessons are the most valuable. Melissa had learned about consequences, about responsibility, and I had learned that sometimes tough love is the truest form of love there is. The first few weeks after Melissa's return were challenging for both of us. We were walking on eggshells, trying to navigate our new relationship dynamic. The house felt different. Quieter without Tyler, tenser with our unresolved issues hanging in the air. Melissa spent most of her time in her room, emerging only for meals or to use the bathroom. I gave her space, understanding that she was processing not only her betrayal of me, but also Tyler's betrayal of her. Two painful lessons at once seemed almost too much for anyone to bear. One evening, about 2 weeks after her return, I knocked on her bedroom door with a folder in hand. "Can I come in?" I asked. She was sitting cross-legged on her bed, scrolling through job listings on her phone. The room was meticulously clean, a new development. Before she left for Chicago, her room had always been a disaster area. "I've drawn up a repayment agreement," I said, sitting on the edge of her bed and opening the folder. "My lawyer helped with it. It's pretty straightforward." Her face flushed with shame as she took the papers, but she didn't protest. $45,000, she read aloud. "Payable in monthly installments of $750 over 5 years. I nodded. "It's interest-free. I'm not looking to punish you, Melissa. I just need to know that you understand the seriousness of what happened and that you're committed to making it right." She stared at the papers for a long moment, then looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "I'll sign it, and I'll pay it all back, every penny, I promise." "I believe you," I said, and realized with some surprise that I actually did. Melissa signed the agreement without further comment, her signature shakier than usual. As she handed the papers back to me, she asked, "Have you heard anything about your car?" I shook my head. "My lawyer says it's complicated. Since Tyler sold it without proper documentation, the sale wasn't technically legal. But the new owner likely had no idea it was stolen, so they're an innocent party in all this." "So it's just gone?" she asked, her voice small. "Probably. We could pursue it legally, but it would be costly and might not lead anywhere. That's why we're focusing on the repayment instead." She nodded, looking down at her hands. "I start my new job on Monday," she said after a moment. "It's just at the mall, retail, but it's something. The manager said there's room for advancement if I work hard." "That's great, Melissa. I'm proud of you for taking that step." She looked up, surprised. "You are?" "Of course. Everyone has to start somewhere." I hesitated, then added, "When I was your age, I was working as a night janitor to make ends meet. There's no shame in honest work." "I didn't know that about you," she admitted. "You've always seemed so established." I chuckled. "I wasn't born with a corner office, you know. I worked my way up, one unglamorous step at a time." For the first time in weeks, I saw a genuine smile on her face. "Thanks, Dad. For everything. For letting me come back. For not giving up on me." "I'll never give up on you, Melissa. You're my daughter. But I will hold you accountable, because that's what good parents do." She nodded, understanding in her eyes. "I'm starting to see that now." The following Monday, Melissa started her job at the mall. She came home that evening exhausted, but surprisingly upbeat. "My feet are killing me," she groaned, collapsing onto the couch. "I had no idea standing all day could be so brutal." "Welcome to the working world," I said, handing her a cup of tea. "It gets easier." "Does it?" she asked skeptically. "No," I admitted with a laugh. "But you get tougher." Over the next few months, I watched a transformation take place. Melissa rose early every morning, made her bed, prepared her lunch, and headed to work without complaint. She was promoted to shift supervisor within 3 months, a record according to her manager, who called to tell me how impressed they were with her work ethic. Each month, like clockwork, she transferred $750 into my account. Sometimes it clearly pained her to do it. I could see her wincing as she completed the transaction, but she never missed a payment, never asked for an extension. On weekends, she started taking online classes to finish her degree. "It's going to take forever at this rate," she complained one night over dinner. "One class at a time while working full-time. I'll be 40 before I graduate." "Better 40 with a degree than 40 without one," I pointed out. She sighed. "I know. I just wish I hadn't wasted so much time." "It wasn't all wasted," I said thoughtfully. "You learned some valuable lessons." Sometimes those are worth more than a diploma. 6 months after her return from Chicago, Melissa was promoted again, this time to assistant manager. Her salary increased enough that she could afford to take 2 classes per semester instead of 1. She even started contributing to the household expenses, something I hadn't asked for, but which she insisted upon. "It's only fair," she said. "I'm an adult living in your house. I should pay my share." I was proud of her, prouder than I'd been in years. The painful episode with my car, as hurtful as it had been, had ultimately led to something positive: Melissa's growth into a responsible, independent adult. One Sunday afternoon, about 8 months after her return, we were sitting on the back porch enjoying the spring weather. Melissa had just received an A on a particularly difficult business management paper and was in high spirits. "Dad," she said suddenly, setting down her glass of lemonade, "I've been thinking. I want to increase my monthly payments for the car." I looked at her in surprise. "You don't have to do that, Melissa. The agreement is working fine as it is." "I know. But now that I'm making more money, it feels right to pay it back faster. I was thinking of increasing it to $1,000 a month. It would cut more than a year off the total time." I studied her face, seeing determination in her eyes. "Are you sure? That's a significant increase." "I'm sure. I want this debt gone, Dad. I want to be free of it, and—" She hesitated. "I want you to know how seriously I take what happened, how committed I am to making it right." I nodded slowly. "All right, if that's what you want to do, I support it." She smiled, looking relieved. "Thank you for understanding, for everything." Later that evening, as I was preparing for bed, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number, but I answered anyway. "Mr. Wilson?" a man's voice asked. "Yes, that's me. My name is Detective Harmon with the Chicago Police Department. I'm calling about a 2021 Lexus ES350 registered in your name." My heart skipped a beat. "You found my car?" "Yes, sir. It was recovered during a raid on a chop shop operation here in Chicago. I'm afraid it's been partially dismantled, but the VIN number was still intact." I sank onto my bed, a mix of emotions washing over me. "I see. According to our records, the vehicle was reported stolen. Is that correct?" I hesitated. To file charges against Tyler would mean potentially implicating Melissa as well. The detective seemed to sense my hesitation. "Sir, we have reason to believe your vehicle was part of a larger operation. The individuals running this chop shop have been targeting high-end vehicles for months. Any information you can provide would be helpful in our investigation." I took a deep breath. My daughter's ex-boyfriend sold the car without my permission. I never officially reported it stolen because, well, it's complicated. Family matters. There was a pause on the other end. "I understand, sir. In cases like these, family considerations can be difficult. However, I should inform you that the individual who purchased your vehicle is likely innocent in all this. They probably had no idea it was stolen, but the chop shop operators are another matter entirely." "What happens now?" I asked. "We'll need a formal statement from you regarding how your vehicle was taken. As for the car itself, given its condition, your insurance company will likely declare it a total loss." After getting more details from the detective, I hung up and sat in silence for a long time. Part of me wanted to tell Melissa immediately, but another part worried about how she would take the news. Would it send her spiraling back into guilt and shame just when she was making such good progress? In the end, I decided to wait until morning. These kinds of conversations were better had in daylight. The next day, I told Melissa about the call over breakfast. To my surprise, she took it calmly. "So they found it, but it's basically destroyed," she summarized, pushing her cereal around in her bowl. "Yes, the insurance will cover most of the value, but there's still the deductible and the difference between what they'll pay and what it would cost to replace it." She nodded, her expression resolute. I'll still pay back the full amount we agreed to. That doesn't change. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. I know you will. Are they going to charge Tyler? She asked, her voice carefully neutral. They might if they can find him. The detective was more interested in the chop shop operation, though. She nodded again, seemingly lost in thought. You know, she said finally, it's strange, but I feel like I should thank him. Thank Tyler? I asked, bewildered. For stealing my car. No, not for that, she said quickly. For showing me who he really was, and who I was becoming when I was with him. She looked up at me, her eyes clear and direct. If he hadn't done something so extreme, I might still be with him, still making excuses, still living in this fantasy world where someday he'd magically become successful and responsible. Instead, I'm here, building a real life, one day at a time. I considered her words. There are probably less expensive ways to learn those lessons, I said with a wry smile. She laughed, a genuine, full laugh that I hadn't heard in too long. Definitely, but at least I learned them before I married him or something truly disastrous. The insurance payout came through a few weeks later. As promised, the company declared the car a total loss and sent a check for $40,000, $5,000 less than what the car had been worth, but a substantial sum nonetheless. What are you going to do with it? Melissa asked when I showed her the check. Buy another Lexus? I shook my head. No, I think I'll get something more practical this time. Maybe put some of it toward retirement savings. Retirement? She repeated, sounding surprised. But you're only 58. That's years away. Time goes faster than you think, I told her. Besides, I've been thinking, maybe it's time for me to try something new too. Like what? I'm not sure yet. Maybe travel a bit. Your mother and I always talked about seeing Europe, but we never got around to it. Or maybe take some classes, like you're doing. Melissa smiled. I think that's a great idea, Dad. You've spent so long taking care of everyone else. It's time you did something for yourself. The warmth in her voice, the genuine care in her eyes. It was worth more than any car, any amount of money. My daughter was growing up, becoming the person I'd always hoped she would be. Not because I'd forced her, but because life had taught her some hard but necessary lessons. A year after the car incident, my relationship with Melissa had transformed. She was now a full manager at the store, taking evening classes and faithfully making her monthly payments, which she had increased to $1,000 on her own initiative. I had used part of the insurance money to finally book that trip to Italy Catherine and I had always dreamed about. Are you sure you'll be okay on your own? I asked as I packed my suitcase. She gave me that good-natured eye roll that reminded me of her mother. Dad, I'm 28. I think I can survive 2 weeks without supervision. I smiled. I know, old habits. Go, she insisted. Enjoy yourself. You deserve this. The trip was everything I'd hoped for. Florence, Rome, Venice. I felt younger and more carefree than I had in years, sending Melissa daily photos and updates. When I returned, the house was spotless and she had prepared a welcome home dinner. I have some news, she said as we ate. I've been approved for an apartment. It's small, but in a good area. I felt a bittersweet pride. That's wonderful. When would you move? Next month. I've been saving for furniture and deposits, she smiled. And I'll still be making my payments to you, of course. I never doubted that. I reached for her hand. I'm proud of you. This is a big step. I'm nervous, she admitted. I've never truly lived alone before. It was always with you, roommates, or... She hesitated. Tyler, I finished. It's okay to say his name. He's part of your past. She nodded. I still feel foolish sometimes, thinking about how blinded I was. We've all been there, I assured her. Love, or what we think is love, can make us do crazy things. Well, I'm taking a break from all that, she declared. I'm focusing on me now, my job, education, independence. The day of her move arrived quickly. We loaded her belongings into her car and my new, more modest Honda. The apartment was small but charming, on the third floor of a converted Victorian with tall windows that flooded the space with light. As we carried in the last box, Melissa turned to me with a serious expression. "Dad, there's something important I want to say." I waited, curious. "The agreement says I'll pay you $1,000 monthly until the debt is cleared, and I will. But money can't make up for betraying your trust, so I want to give you something else, my promise that I will never betray you again. And I want to show you through my actions that I'm worthy of your trust." I felt a lump in my throat. "That means more than any repayment, Melissa." She smiled, tears in her eyes. "I know. That's why I needed to say it. I was selfish and thoughtless, and I hurt you deeply. I can't change that, but I can ensure it never happens again." And as we hugged, I noticed a small wrapped package on a box. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it," she urged. Inside was a framed photo of Catherine, Melissa, and me at the beach when Melissa was 10. We were all laughing, the sunset behind us painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. I remembered that day clearly, one of those perfect family moments that stays with you forever. "I found it while packing," Melissa explained. "Mum looks so happy there." "We all do." I nodded, unable to speak for a moment. "Thank you," I finally managed. "I'm putting the matching one in my living room," she said, "to remind me of who I am and where I come from, to remind me of the values Mom taught me, that you taught me, even if I lost sight of them for a while." We spent the rest of the day setting up her apartment. By evening, it was beginning to look like home. As I prepared to leave, Melissa handed me a spare key. "Just in case," she said, "and for when you visit, which I hope will be often." I pocketed the key, oddly moved by this simple gesture of trust. "One more thing," she said as I headed for the door. "I want you to know that I understand now. About the car, about why it meant so much to you. It wasn't just a car, was it? It was a symbol of everything you'd worked for, a reward you finally gave yourself after always putting everyone else first." I nodded, surprised by her insight. "I'm sorry I took that from you, but I promise when my debt is paid, I'm going to help you find an even better car, something that's truly special." "You don't need to do that," I said. "Seeing you like this, independent, responsible, thoughtful, that's worth more than any car." She smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, kiddo." As I drove home to my empty house, I felt an unexpected sense of peace. The past year had been difficult, filled with painful lessons for both of us. But from that pain had come growth, understanding, and a deeper bond between father and daughter. Sometimes life's hardest moments lead to its greatest blessings. The loss of my car had ultimately given me something far more valuable: the daughter I always knew Melissa could be.